Development partners chastise government for a disappointing management of the economy, while raising grave concerns about fight against corruption. Also tonight we'll tell you what the president has been saying in response, plus the GII report that is causing a stir among members of parliament.
MPs are not auditors to go and be looking for fraud in state enterprises. Being members of boards, I don't think that it compromises the role of parliament in checking whatever ill might happen in a particular company.
The oversight responsibility might come under question, because if you're an MP, the natural instincts will not permit you to do a very proper oversight job.
Top story is brought to you by Bond Financial Services, your success, our passion, Belaka Mineral Water, the new generation mineral water, as well as Blue Rose Limited and Lifebuoy.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
They are often accused of dishonesty to our leaders, but today they challenge the stereotype, castigating the president and his team for poorly managing the economy. Ghana's development partners were not only, quote, disappointed with the country's fiscal performance last year, they also had grave concerns about corruption. And guess what? They said all this directly to the face of the president at the Flagstaff House. Speaking on behalf of the Government Development Partners Group was head of mission CLAUDE Matthew.
Fiscal performance last year was an unwelcome repeat of Ghana's recent history of poor fiscal performance during election years. Large deficit creates serious risks for Ghana's continued progress and success. It jeopardizes growth opportunities, constrains new investments, and adds to debt in a context where public debt has risen quickly. Today, levels are around where they were before the major debt relief a decade ago. So we welcome your decision to reduce fuel subsidies and your commitment to increase domestic tax revenue. More needs to be done to ensure macroeconomic stability, and we look forward to having a detailed discussion with your team soon. And we will also, Your Excellency, be very pleased to work with you on a framework to strengthen institutions and processes so that this will make these slippages a thing of the past. As Your Excellency has said, it is not just the level of spending which is important, but what resources are spent on. The social contract that allows government to raise more tax will be strengthened by government being able to demonstrate that it is getting good value for each cedi spent. Ghana is not yet where we would both wish you would be. The quality of some services is far below what Ghanaians have the right to expect. Public sector reform is hard. It is such a big topic and involves so many people, but it is not impossible. And while the problems might sometimes seem daunting, not addressing them is costly. There are many aspects: improving public financial management, reducing the number of people on the public payroll, ensuring decentralization is more effective, improving performance of the staff, strengthening accountability, to name just a few. Not everyone can be done at once, but we encourage you and will help you if you would like assistance to be ambitious and take some major steps towards establishing the efficient public service that Ghana needs.
Now the president gave this reaction.
Strengthening public sector institutions so that they are able to carry out at optimal efficiency the role for which they were created, and also ensure that the public has predictable and efficient services. And so that will be in the area of public sector reform. Anytime we lose macroeconomic stability, it is the vulnerable in society who suffer. If inflation goes up, they are less likely to be able to withstand, you know, the negative vibrations that come with increased inflation. If the currency depreciates, people are more likely to suffer in the vulnerable groups than in other groups. And that's why it's important for us to maintain macroeconomic stability. There have always been cyclical slippages, and it is our intention that this should be the last time we suffer a slippage like this. And so working together, we must make the economy more robust so that it's able to live above the electoral cycle and not have, you know, the fact that an election is taking place affect the economy in the way that it has. And so one of the things we want to do is to be transparent in putting out the numbers and letting Ghanaians know that this is what the state of your economy is, this is what the budget is.
And we're working the phone lines right now to try and get a reaction from the Finance Minister, Seth Terkper, on the issues raised by our development partners at that meeting with the President today as they launched the Government Development Partners Group. But one other key issue raised by the partners is public corruption. Now, they pointed to the failure in implementing what they call the GOV'T legislative framework for tackling corruption. Well, that ties in with a strongly worded statement issued today by anti-graft agency Ghana Integrity Initiative. They also took on the government for compromising legislative oversight by appointing members of parliament to boards of state institutions. They also sharply criticized the practice of appointing political cronies to sensitive government positions, which they maintain has the potential to breed corruption. We'll be speaking shortly with VITUS AZEEM. He's executive director of the GII. But I can put some of the issues that were raised. We'll also be joined by an MP, of course, because a lot of the things raised in that report had to do with the parliamentarians themselves and their appointments, sometimes without merit to certain boards. But I'm joined by Mr. AZEEM on the line right now. Thank you very much, sir, for your time on Top Story. You say in your statement, quote, parliamentarians who are expected to play an oversight role over the executive are also appointed to boards of corporations, compromising their independence and oversight role. What informs this conclusion?
Well, the point is that if you are supposed to play an oversight role over somebody, and then you become part of that body, you find it becomes difficult for you to actually play that oversight role. For example, if there's a question about the allowances that are paid to board members, and you are sitting there as a board member, what can you say about it? You find it difficult to look at the interests of the organization as against your personal interest as a board member. Or if the executive secretary, the chief executive officer that you have appointed is not managing the place well, you have appointed him or her, it will be difficult for you to take very drastic measures against the person, especially if that person is also the person that fixes your allowances, your sitting allowances.
I see. We have been speaking to some MPs about your position, and this is the reaction we got. Listen.
A member of parliament can be a minister of state. I mean, if you're talking about separation of powers, okay? I mean, ours is not a strict separation of powers. You know, it's a hybrid. Okay, so I really don't see it. I really don't see it. I mean, I believe that it's always better to even prevent than to cure. I mean, if a member of parliament will sit back for something to be done before he come and talk against it, I mean, what is wrong with the person will be there and make sure that the thing doesn't happen at all.
I think that we want to look at what functions boards are expected to perform. And if MPs have that capacity and entrepreneurship to be able to guide companies, then I don't find anything wrong with it. MPs are not auditors to go and be looking for fraud in state enterprises.
So those are some views we got from Parliament, or they disagree with you, Mr. AZEEM?
Yes, they definitely. I didn't expect them to agree with me, because this is not the first time that we're raising this issue. And you see, there's more to it than just agreeing or disagreeing with me. as we've also pointed out in the press release, some of the allowances of these institutions are outrageous. They exceed the salaries of full-time staff. So if I were a parliamentarian and getting an additional allowance of, let's say, equal to what I get as a parliamentarian, definitely I would be against such a thing. But the point is that the fusion of the executive with the legislature has already been a problem that we have been talking about. Just that it is something in the Constitution that is around our necks, and we are finding it difficult to deal with it. But then if you are determined to fight corruption, you should try as much as possible to reduce that fusion as much as possible. But as we appoint them to become members of boards of directors, most of them are chairs, then it becomes like you are intensifying the fusion between the executive and the legislature, and then you've compromised the position of the legislature over the executive.
Stay on the line kindly for me, because I've been joined by a Member of Parliament, Frank Ano-Dompreh, MP for Nsoama Dredri. Thank you, sir, for your time. The position is that as an MP, if you get appointed by your party, if your party wins power and you get appointed, the potential that you be compromised and indeed your oversight responsibilities will be watered down significantly is pretty high. You agree with that position? Hello, Mr. Ano-Dompreh. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I'm here.
Great. I'm asking you to basically give me, because you're a member of Parliament, maybe you can bring some perspective to bear. We've had some of your members who essentially disagree with the position taken by GII that members of Parliament tend to be compromised when they get political appointments. Do you ascribe to that view?
Well, if you hear me clearly, good evening to you and good evening to Ghanaians. This is my personal opinion about the whole matter. It doesn't represent the views of the minority in any way, but I personally agree with them. Clearly, you cannot, emphasis mine, be a member of a board and then at the same time be a member of Parliament. For instance, if I am a member of the Committee on Food and Agriculture and Cocoa, at the same time you are a member of the board of the Cocoa Board. I mean, there's a clear conflict of interest. I've heard people say that, oh, this is not the same as what happens when likening it to the appointment of most ministers from Parliament, and they think that there is a certain equality. I think the two are distinct and different. Clearly, the Constitution, which is the supreme law of our land, Article 1.2, tells us that the Constitution is the supreme law of our land, which states clearly the majority of ministers are appointed from Parliament. So that cannot be likened to the appointment of MPs serving on board and directors and staff. So I agree with that report, and I think that's our democratic growth. We need to come to terms with that fact that MPs cannot serve as board members of these bodies, and clearly that will be compromising on their oversight responsibilities and their oversight instincts. So I totally agree with them.
Let me ask you then. Let me ask you then. Somebody say yes, you are in the opposition, the minority right now, so it's easy to make that point. But if you're giving an appointment, assuming your party won power to one of those boards, would you decline?
I have to say yes. If Manado is president and I'm a member of Parliament and I have been appointed to serve on the Cocoa Board, I can't do that. Because it would be difficult for me to make a very constructive criticism and also do my oversight role as a member of Parliament. I think it makes a lot of sense. And people should yield into forming into that temptation of comparing that to the appointment of most ministers coming from Parliament and saying that the two are the same. The two are distinctly different and they are not the same.
Thank you, sir, for your time. I still have with me on the line, VITUS AZEEM. In your statement, you touched on that possibility of MPs, when they are given the appointments, being bold enough to say, I'm sorry, but I can't take this. But sadly, as you pointed out, that doesn't happen. We just had an MP say, if he's appointed, he will turn it down. How much weight are you putting on that? You believe him?
Well, you know, he said that was his personal view that he was expressing. Definitely, it's possible that he would. But how many of the 275 parliamentarians would do that? And you see, it goes beyond just the oversight role. Now, if you want to be appointed a chair of a board, and then the bill is brought by the executive to Parliament, you want to be in the good books of the president, so that consideration will be there. So it is a very complex matter that we think that Parliament should be bold enough and let go. Say that yes, even though there's financial benefit, we think that for us to have an effective role, for our institution as a legislature to be strengthened, we should give up that
Okay. Mr. Azeem, I want to say thank you. I just ran out of time, but I'm grateful for your time. That's the Executive Director of the GII, VITUS Azeem, Head Frank, and not Dompré MP for Nsawam Medrejiri. And you want to join us in 15 minutes on Newsnight, because we're bringing you more on that statement today at the Flagstaff House put forward by the development partners, and get some reaction from the Finance Minister. Of course, we've been trying to reach him, but we understand he might be in a meeting, and so he's not able to speak to us right now. But we'll try and get his reaction on the key issues raised by the development partners, expressing disappointment about our economic performance so far. We will deal with that in detail. But Top Story is brought to you by Bond Financial Services, your success, our passion, Belacra Mineral Water, as well as Blue Rose Limited and Lifebuoy. My name is Evans Mensah.